rallying. Here we can see one of the multiple clones of the Fiat 124 declined across the Iron Curtain. In Russia, the Vaz, today Lada, was assembled under license on the banks of the Volga. Ancestors of Audi, DKW and Auto Union produced this sedan powered by a 3-cylinder 2-stroke engine. According to rumor, the client was happy twice, when he bought it and when he sold it. Those with Arons, however, had flawless reliability. Sincar, still an offshoot of the Fiat Group, had unprecedented success with this model, the P16 1963 model, or there was the 59 vintage. The Aron was the best-selling car in France in '56, but its rust-greedy body has not always aged very well. One who does improve with age is José Larrep, already double winner of the historic. On this Sunday night, he's third in general after winning the last RZ of the day. He'll be favourite as they attack the common stage. Also discreet and constant, just in front, is the Norwegian Petter Granerud, remaining in second place after this day, 10 points behind the new leader. It's the Italians Giordano Mozzi and Stefania Biaccia leading the classification tonight back to the Champ de Mars in Valence. As the cars file past the checkpoint, the diversity of this year's entry list becomes apparent. So do the novelties, like the Renault 8 Gordini contingent run by the brand's classic department. At the origin of the creation of coupes, formula cars and other varieties, the R8s helped many a driver stand out on equal terms. And this year, the Gord celebrates an important anniversary.
The
R8's a car that's 50 years old today, and it's a mythical car. It helped a lot of young drivers show their talents in the R8 Gordini Cup, so it's a really fabulous car. A good training ground for the young drivers, and it's nice to see it again today. A pleasure enhanced by the presence of Jean Ragnotti, always close to the public, with a real flashback in the career of the driver who started in '67 and '68 at the wheel of the little sedan.
La Gordini, c'est la voiture avec laquelle j'ai débuté. La 8 Gordini, c'est la voiture.
The R8 Gordini is the car I debuted in competition in 1967. I kept it from '67 to '69. I drove a lot, had a lot of good results, not many problems of reliability. The car drove really well, and it was thanks to this that I was able to become a professional driver in 1972. So it didn't take me long to go professional. And when I push it hard again, in the places where we can, I again find the Renault Gordini that was the fun car to drive. Quite spectacular, with oversteer, and we have great times.
Assez spectaculaire, survireuse, et en tout cas, on se régale, on s'amuse bien.
The Mini Cooper and the Renault 8 Gordini will therefore remain as two emblematic cars of this 2014 Monte Carlo Historic, the 17th such event. Monday morning, the start of the common stage heading further south. The first part runs over 4 regularity zones between Drôme and the Isère, including Saint-Jean-Rayon, Côte-les-Charassons, La Cime-du-Mât and Les Nonières, Col de Menez, Chichiliane. The Gare de Clermont, a shrine of rallying, where there's a lunch break before the survivors attack Lépine-la-Charce, then Rocobo, Jansac, Côte de Penne. A course never run as a latter-day RZ. The lower numbers open the road again, some loving it, some struggling a little, because those who play to win in regularity discover a snowy and icy road in the shade of the woods, but behind them, once the sun climbs over the trees, the ice will turn to soup. But that's the luck of the draw. Zach Matten in the Datsun 240Z goes for a spin, but it's part of the game.
It's a great privilege to be number 9. I really thank Monte Carlo for that. But yes, it's difficult. Today, in fact, the car is high off the ground, but even so, the snow was lifting the front off as we were going through the stages. It was very slippery. I mean, the people I've spoke to within these numbers, each side of me here, were having trouble. It's a good rally car, but it's very long. It's very difficult in the corners, but it's a well-prepared car. We built it ourselves. Everything on the car basically we've renewed and upgraded, and she's to the work spec of the 1972 Monte Carlo car, so we're very proud of her. Yes, this car understeers, believe it or not, even though it's rear-wheel drive, straight six engine. But once you get it into the corner, you must use the power, because if you don't force it into the corner, then the car will understeer on you, and that's what you don't need. So it's a very difficult car to drive, because you're always having to force it to make it slide, because if you don't, she'll understeer on you. So she's a difficult car to drive, I would say. Yes, definitely.
The repeated passage of competitors in the special and the heat of the sun can make things a little less delicate for the following crews. But they can also conversely bring out the worst aspect of the rally: excessive optimism. Even in regularity, to maintain this famous permanent average, you have to be quick in the tighter curves. Some come close to being correctional cases, as they say, and others just go for it with no holds barred.
Excès d'optimisme.
Well, we just went off lightly there. Oh, well, what an idiot.
Puis voilà quoi, excès d'optimisme. Oh le con.
The most important thing is that no one's injured. The car has suffered very little. It'll be an extra memory for the unlucky crew, that's all. In the meantime, it's a Citroën GS that puts in the third time in this area of Saint-Jean-en-Royans, La Cime du Mât. Christian and Bastien Dussel, who are 56 points behind the Austin Healey 3000 of the Norwegians Frode Lund and Bjorn Lier. Best classified in this section being the Austrian Kurt Schimitzek, running with the German Vitus Falch at the wheel of a Lancia Fulvia. Second last year at the end of a duel to the last inch with Gerard Bianchi, Jean-Pierre Coppola has swapped his A310 for a Berlinetta. This edition of the Monte Carlo is for him a kind of life-size rehearsal with which to focus before attempting to hang another victory on the trophy board. I'd been thinking for some time about running in a Berlinette, and the 310 is a very hard car to drive. And as we get older every year, it will soon be 15 Monte Carlos. It's a very hard car to drive, tiring. You can never let up. But this one, it's like a bike. It's pure happiness, a joy to drive. I'm really thrilled and happy, and all the spectators are thrilled to see a Berlinette.
Tout ça, ils sont heureux de voir une berlinette, quoi.
Les Nonières, Col de Menet, La Siciliane. This is the second regularity zone of the day, with special Monte Carlo conditions. In the climb, sun, snow and ice have almost completely disappeared. But in the descent, oriented to the north, the ice is omnipresent. It's lunchtime at the Clayle station at the end of a beautiful winter morning. Here near the Auberge Ferrat, there are no questions about gender. The rally also has its feminine side, like with the crew of this scarlet and starry Porsche.
Absolutely, it's a woman's passion from when I was very young. My father brought me along to follow the Monte Carlo rally when I was very young. I learnt to drive in a Porsche from 18 years old, and it was a dream to participate in a Porsche. But it's very difficult in the snow. I admit that in a 911 downhill on ice, well, I'm not comfortable. Regularity is very difficult. You've really got to pace yourself, and in a car which is very powerful, such as a 911, managing to stay 49.9 or 49.7 is hard. As soon as you're set off, you're at 70 or 80 kilometers per hour, so then you have to slow down, and it gets complicated. I think cars like the Minis, the Abarths, I see them go past more regularly. But it's a game, a real game.
Mais c'est un jeu, c'est un vrai jeu.
This game, delicate even in a Mini, Jacques Rossi, the F1 Grand Prix race director, is finding out. The real challenge was to fold his 1.90 meter into the car to optimize comfort on board. But despite this difference in size, the pleasure of the novelty is present.
C'est vraiment impressionnant.
It's really impressive intensity at every moment. It's very, very nice. And we're very happy to be here. And we have a great time. We can see the work of the marshals because we know what they do. And we really appreciate that.
Oui, c'est très, très intense.
An intensity which is lived out on the ice, on snow, or, as is the case this afternoon, on dry asphalt. It's the 8th regularity zone between the Col de Saulce and the Chasse, or for the 9th between Roquebrune and the Col de Pene later on. There are still nearly 280 competitors at this stage of the event. Sure, it's much less spectacular than skiing in the morning, but it has the merit of enabling a quieter return to Valence for the third and final Parc Fermé on the Champ de Mars. Tomorrow, the course will bring the competitors back to Monaco for a final night that will be true to the legend. At 10th place on Monday evening, Fabio Babini is still one of the potential winners, even if his chances decrease significantly these past few hours. He'd hoped for snow, but his wishes have not been fulfilled.
We
tried to keep the gaps last night, that is to stay very close to those who play on regularity to make a difference in the event of snow. Unfortunately, it hasn't happened like that. The others were very strong. Whether it's the Norwegians or the Opel crews, we now have to understand what's happened and try and set things right for the next day. With this Porsche, the Norwegians Tori Johansen and Anita Sosto have indeed made it up to 3rd place from the 52nd position they were in the day before. Second, the Opel Kadett of José Larraip and David Leven with a gap of 21 points on the leader. Anything is still possible. The leader is none other than the Norwegian Petter Granerud running with Steinrod. But one could think that the fight might well last until the last moments of the last night, as the two men give such an impression of solidity in the leading positions. Tuesday morning, it's time to move to the Principality for the second part of the common stage. The day begins with the Montauban-sur-Louvèze, Col de Perty et Galets to run before the checkpoint at Digne in the Alpes de Haute-Provence. We'll then have to face the last two difficulties of this latter part of the rally, Coulmarc, Tartonne, Lambris, contested for the first time in the historic event, and Rouen, Col de Féline, Entrevaux. But there are no major changes at the head of the rally. The top three is grouped in fewer than 100 points, and behind the Porsche 911 Carrera of Jean-Michel Cole and Marc Dedieu is waiting in ambush. Just like the Lancia Fulvia of the Austrian Schmitze. And the Opel Kadett GTE of Raymond Durand and Joseph Lambert. No great surprises to expect given the road conditions and weather forecast. The important thing is, in the coming hours, not to make any major mistakes, not to try to shine in a maneuver that, in case of failure, could be devastating. Back to the Riviera. It's time to look at this Renault 5, which usually ran in the Spanish Historic Championship. Behind the wheel is Antonio Sainz, the elder brother of Carlos, not very satisfied with his 75th place.
Realmente es muy difícil la regularidad en estas condiciones porque
it's difficult to retain the regularity in these circumstances. There are radical changes in surface at certain times, and I didn't have much sensitivity to be able to adapt.
Pienso que es un rally que
it's a fundamentally difficult rally. You never know what the weather will give. In the morning, there are big differences between the passage of the lower and higher numbers. You must also have a bit of luck.
Hay que tener un poco de suerte. Para nosotros, cuando sube,
For us, in the uphills, the car has trouble and labors. Anyone who started with a Porsche might be happy, but for us, this is disappointing.
También depende del coche. Yo me imagino que un Porsche hoy está muy contento y nosotros poco contentos.
On the port of Monaco, the frontrunners arrive every minute. A few hours of rest before tackling a new final step consisting of a blend of the finest backcountry special stages. A moment not to be missed.
There are still two more difficult stages this night, and those are my favorites. So we are going for the lead. We are going for the top podium. I must say that I do this in favor of my old father, late father. He did this rally in 1963 and 64. So it's a big thing for me to go over the Col de Turini. So
on attend donc les derniers pointages.
The first are already thinking about the final stage, but the latter are still arriving on Port Hercule. Among them again, some notable models like this Riley 1.5 litre restored by its owner and which was back out for the first time for the Monte Carlo Historic.
Probably mad, absolutely mad to come down here in an old car and think we could go around all these regularities in the mountains. But the car has done amazingly well. It's not broken down, nothing's gone wrong with it, and I've only put 1 pint of oil into it, so long may it continue. This poor old car has been resuscitated after 37 years in a garage. It's only had one owner, but it had been abandoned in his garage, and I rescued it last year. And we rebuilt it in started in October, just putting the new brakes and new clutch and all the parts, and I thought it would be a good car for the Monte Carlo.
There's a rallying atmosphere before the start of the Night of Turini. There's effervescence in the air as His Serene Highness Prince Albert II of Monaco welcomes Paddy Hopkirk, winner of the 64 edition, in a Mini being commemorated this year.
Yes, it was very snowy that year actually, and it was, of course, there was no results coming through like they do today, so you actually got here, you had no idea how you'd done. I knew we'd done fairly well because we'd practiced very hard and what have you, but the Turini was very icy and snowy, and we didn't come out expecting to win, but we had a wonderful team of mechanics, and I had a wonderful co-driver, we had a wonderful team manager, and we were well prepared. And but the one thing I did coming here by taxi from the airport today, I do remember the one thing was coming out of all that ghastly weather, especially I had started in Minsk in Russia, which is not very pleasant, and coming and seeing that blue Mediterranean and the sunshine, and that's lovely. Even today, that was lovely. But this, just looking around here tonight, and here I feel some rain. Maybe there'll be snow in the Turini. I hope so.
The skies open in the Principality for the start of the first competitors in the last two regularity zones. The first three are separated by less than 100 points, which leaves room for plenty of uncertainty if the snow falls in the backcountry. Unfortunately, the doubts don't last for long. No snow in the special. There'll be no drama for the arrival. We of course watch the leaders with special attention. José Larep and Peter Grunerud, who are separated by 24 points. In the 13th regularity zone, the Opel of the Belgian is 4th. The Porsche of the Norwegians do not do better. You have to go all the way down to 94th place to find the previously second ranking crew, who lose 160 points in one fell swoop. A gap which only will increase in the second part of the evening. José Larep will give us the full measure of his talent to stay in the lead and achieve a new victory in Monaco. Those who are conspicuous in the end, of course, are the former duelists from 2013. Gérard Brianti, winner of the previous edition, winner of the first of the regularity zones of the evening. While Jean-Pierre Coppola wins the second and last of the 2014 edition. It's as the winner, and for the third time in the history of the event, that José Larep makes it to the final podium of the 17th Monte Carlo Historic. My objective was always to stay within striking distance of the leaders. We've just done 110 kilometers of time section. There are a lot of hairpins, and you have to know how to take them, because in a hairpin you can lose a lot of time in the braking or in re-acceleration and so on. I applied myself and it went very well. Larep ahead of the Norwegian Grunerud by 326 points, and the Frenchman Jean-Michel Coll returning towards the final podium in the last miles. What remains, without doubt, one of the highlights of the week for the competitors, the traditional and prestigious Gala Evening award ceremony that takes place on Wednesday evening after a few hours of sleep in the Salle des Étoiles of the Monte Carlo Sporting Club. It's the occasion to find the main animators of this edition in tuxedo to enjoy the splendors of the Principality and perhaps, unconsciously, to prepare for the next edition. 2015 will be the 18th edition of the Monte Carlo Historic Rally, and with it a success that renews itself each year to welcome more than 300 crews in the Principality of Monaco and to conjugate for all time an unconditional passion for rallying.
That's right.
Partout
bravo à la Norvège, qui fait quand même un score